Now this is just clay. I've got to build some mold walls so I can pour silicone for the teeth. We can cast those. So I'm just letting it warm up under the lamp a little bit. It's much easier to work with. Gathering a number of things here. I got a pile of stuff around my desk. Getting all the supplies together. Let's see, cups and mixing sticks. I don't know what the music is. It's just some Creative Commons stream channel that I pulled up. It's hard to find a decent background noise that I won't get dinged for, so. In some ways, they're cool with it. Some of the labels are, they'll send you a copyright notice, but they won't take the video down. They just say that they want to be able to run a commercial on it, and you can choose whether or not you're okay with that and leave it. A Perfect Circles label did that, and I was just like, yeah, sure, go ahead, run a commercial. I don't care. Although I'll try to avoid it, but that's preferable to them just shutting you down. So I think I figured out the circuit for the audio today. It's pretty simple, actually. It really doesn't even use audio. It just uses the voltage from the audio signal. So I don't have to deal with an audio breakout board or anything. Take the samples and just punch them down into mono, and then back to stereo, so they'll run both speakers, but basically the same thing coming out of both speakers, and normalize it. And then depending on the resistor, if I in the code, I can specify the sensitivity a little bit and set a limit, but I can also vary the voltage going in. You don't have to load them on anything. You can just basically plug a phone or an iPad or a mixer up to it, and it'll just run in through, it'll run in through an audio jack, but all the audio jack is doing is sending a voltage signal. So it should be pretty straightforward, very simple, not a lot to go wrong. So these are pretty smooth, but I'm going to leave them smooth because I can go back in later and I can fuck them up. But I'll have more options that way. Xander sent some great clips from a soundboard. There's stuff like, you know, about biting and drinking blood. There's some great ones. It's a tough show to get through. I'm kind of getting to the point where unless there's a specific guest, man, it's bad. Bad news. It's the same show every day. Same jokes. Watch how unwatchable that already ruined the show. Because when he's gone, Cumia has like other guests in there. It's not so bad. Artie is fucking terrible. I have a feeling that Cumia is probably just hoping Artie goes to jail. He's been in that game too long. He can't think that show is just going along great. There's Dante's ear bone. I just made the bone as a goof. 2-hour project last night. It's got 2 neodymium magnets that will stick through your earlobe. So you can go out and do some guruing. I'd love to know what they're paying him to do that show. Yeah, I took a picture last night and put it on the BBG. Well, that's insane if that's the case. They definitely didn't get their money's worth on that. I've heard the 700K number, but I just can't imagine that they pulled that much money out of them. And they're paying the rest of them, you know, like probably 10K a year. I'd be surprised if those people are getting more than 100, 200 a show. I'm just going to pour this and let it flow. I'll cut the top out of it if I need to. Is that music coming through too loud? It's pretty low, but okay, good. I just like to have some background noise while I'm working. See, I don't know, maybe I'm misreading it, but sometimes, you know, when it seems like Cumia is visibly annoyed when Artie just slams in those bomberoos one after another. Like he just, you know, takes something and rhymes. It's got to be annoying. Cumia laughs and laughs. Morden's gonna run out of steam real quick too. They have no ideas of what they're doing. They're already running the same guests every week. Well, Bill's got nothing else to do. He's not going to go anywhere. Nobody's banging down his door. This music's annoying. I'm switching. Her last day is Thursday. We'll go with relaxing piano music. Who would have thought that an authoritarian Frankenstein like Maresca wouldn't be creative to run an entertainment network? Never would have seen that coming. Those two have so much dirt on each other, they're stuck with each other. The gentleman's scoop. They should do a 1-hour show a couple times a week, and he should run the network. Now, this stuff was pretty dull, guys. I'm with you. It's not enjoyable. Get these poured though so that I can cast the epoxy on the eyes. Or I'm sorry, I'll cast the teeth, and then I'm gonna also, when I mix, I'm gonna pour the shell for the eyes. I don't think that was the big show, the big tease. But I do not know that for sure. I don't care if the outside looks good, as long as it gets the teeth. Once these are done, then I can get back to the sculpture. It's a cool project, especially the finished project with hook it up to a soundboard, and it's an elaborate goof, but elaborate is pretty funny too. You know what? I don't even remember. I think it was an animal head. I have to think back to the time frame. I think it was a rhinoceros head. A cartoon rhinoceros. Just had eyes and mouth. It's kind of cool. It had a voice changer in it. And I probably did something before that. I made tons of stuff when I was a kid with junk. I made a Terminator 2 robot, like a bunch of pipe fittings and conduit. And it was all cable operated. So no electronics. Yeah, it was just a head in the old way. The way that they did my main interest got into this stuff because of the Star Wars movies, mainly the models. I was more into the model making and the way they green screened and did all the compositing. But most of the stuff used to be done with cables to make like tails move, and you can basically, if you have a joint and you have a cable that takes the place of a tendon, it'll operate pretty realistically. It's the same basic fundamental of using servos and solenoids now. It's just more computerized. There's a great documentary about, I don't know if it's a documentary or just a behind the scenes type of thing, about one of the Predators that they made, I think for a more recent movie. But the thing had like 40 servos in the head. Just an amazing animatronic. And then they still use cables to do like things like lips and facial expressions and things like that, but it's all controlled by a microcontroller. Pretty amazing though. Oh, I know what the first animatronic I ever made was. I got for Christmas one year, I got a plastic model of a human skull from a company called Lindbergh. It was a full-size human head. So once I got bored with that, then I made it so its mouth would move and things like that. I forgot about that. Eventually, it ended up in my friend's car as his brake light. So we put 12-volt lamps in the eyes, and then the mouth would move on a little 12-volt motor. And then all we did was hook it up to, in the back of cars, when they have the light in the back window on the deck, we took that light out, mounted the skull, and just hooked the wire up to the 12-volt. So every time he'd hit the brake light, the mouth would move up and down, and the red lights would come on in the eyes. That was probably the first major one I did. It's probably very illegal, but it was cool. I don't know. I guess as long as there's a light, what does it matter? Everything's illegal nowadays, so it's not DOT. Yeah, it was fairly, once the model worked, hooking it up was a piece of cake. There was nothing to it, just a couple of wires. No, I don't. I don't have time. I'd love to. I've always wanted to do like a really crazy Halloween thing for the front porch, so I just don't have time. Down here in Atlanta, not too far from me, there's a big haunted house that goes up around Halloween, and that it is amazing. This haunted house, it's in like a warehouse. I couldn't even begin to tell you how many square feet this is, but it takes you a while to walk through this thing, and it's full of displays. It's incredible. It's one of those places that's like a $30 ticket to get in. Worth it to go once. Yeah, they've got air powered. A lot of it's pneumatic, and then they have live action people in there, and all the costumes are fantastic. It's not cheap shit. Already was a bad decision. Any of those other guys would have been better. And I'm no Voss fan, but I think even he would have been better. That big elaborate. Remember that week-long thing they did, and then they had the big announcement. She was even late for that. For his big announcement on the show, he was late. Now I could make foam tombstones. Could even put them on CNC and just have them cut. I really need to get an SLA printer. It's time to add that to the shop. It's something I've been looking at a lot of. They're expensive and the materials are expensive. I'm sure I could find things to do with it. I talked to Sven a while back about doing a Kumia bat with like suction cups. Well, maybe that'll happen at some point. I kind of envision it like one of those big rubber bats or spiders that you see on a string that drop down, but it's like a jiggly Kumia bat. I think that'd be awesome. .3D printer would have been really cool for all these animatronic parts. Could print the U joints and things like that. About a $6,000 setup. Pretty expensive for a couple of plastic pieces, though. So I need to find more things to do with it. The Segway one with the sound effect that flies into the camera, that's great. Sven is a top-notch animator. Yeah, shout out Sven streams tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern. I think it's 3 p.m. Eastern. So an hour of that usually, and then the disaster that is the AA show. You can see, kind of get a feel for what kind of weekend Kumia is going to go into. If it's going to be a drunk Twitter weekend. I've done a little bit. Once I get the rest of these chulas shipped out, then I'll have a little bit more time. That's kind of been the main focus. And they're about done. I probably need to cast about 4 more, because I'm going to send Mike one, and then I'm going to send the artist one. All the castings that were ordered have all been done. But while I've got all the shit out in the mess, I might as well get the rest of them done. I'll send one to Cameron. No, it was another guy that did it. Dylan Reese. Hopefully I got that right. His name's Dylan Reese. So shout outs to Dylan Reese. I hope I didn't get your name wrong. I'm not sure. I don't know if he's a tattoo artist or something. I'm not sure exactly. I really like the Chula Snake design. That's one of my favorites. That I'm not sure about, but the art style looks similar. Mostly models, plastic models, and then scratch building models. Now, a lot of the practical effects are starting to come back. So even, just even a couple of years ago, everything was so CGI heavy, but a lot of directors are starting to do the practical effects again. There's no reason not to. You can do a good mix and have all the computer controlled aspects and the lighting and the higher tech microcontrollers, but still use the practical effects. Like any new toy, it gets abused. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use the extra silicone and completely encapsulate them. I will be right back. I've got to grab my vacuum pump. Hey, did you guys see that clip with Rogan and Bobby Lee? Bobby Lee says the fleshlight sucks, and then Rogan gets all uptight. It's hilarious. Starts defending the fleshlight. I've done some stop motion animation just for fun, nothing major. Not the best thing to breathe in, but I'm not going out to the shop for that. It's mold release. Eventually, I'm gonna make a Mr. Potato Head. That's Danky. That's on the plate one of these days. Just for my desk, a little potato head donkey lips. You have to have a little Raiders hat, some snacks, low carb, of course, fruit snacks. I like Donkey. He's one of the guys I like. Find him very entertaining. And I almost feel bad for him sometimes. If you'll stick with it, that's normally the problem. Anybody know that? What's that song that he always plays? I've looked for it a few times. He has that little kind of happy theme song that he plays. It sounds like a Nickelodeon song. It's stock, I'm sure. I'm sure it's a Creative Commons song. I found this guy's channel. It had all of those songs that you hear on everyone's videos, YouTube videos all the time, but it didn't have that one. You'd know it the minute you heard it. He used to use it on every single video. Oh, that's questionable. This is pretty old. So I was going to use it, but I don't like the looks of that. I'm not going to chance it. It's nothing worse than cleaning. Well, it's the viscosity has gotten thicker. I'll use it for something I have to build up, like a press mold or something. This one too, but I don't know. Oh yeah, that's bad. This one's probably been sitting here for 2 years unopened. That's a shame. do this in 2 batches. And I can use this little chamber to vacuum it. I don't have to take it out to the shop. It's time to order more silicone too. Definitely need to do something with Gino. I'm not sure. The Gino mask would be gruesome. Kind of like the idea of like a row of heads. Could buy those big lab jars like Futurama and buy those things. Gino is definitely a Cro-Magnon. He's got the that sloped forehead. Did you guys read any of his poetry that I posted? It's really cringe. It's like what any guy could do if he sat down and tried to be thoughtful and intense. A Gino mask would just be gore. all glossy, speckled. You know, though, imagine like any kid, any emo kid that sits down and decides he's going to be an introspective writer. That's the result. That's what you would get. I turned on in hot water a couple of days ago. Well, it would have been yesterday. After, it wasn't live, it was after. I turned it on for like 30 seconds. He was yelling so loud in the monologue. I just shut it off. Like, I'm not ready for this yet. Like the classic bad actor that just yells through everything. No emotion, just yelling. I don't know if you guys haven't ever seen that VIP Ignite interview that he did. It's over a year ago. But with that Alicia K-back woman, man, that thing is cringe. He was definitely doing promo there. It wasn't just an interview. It was a Sicilian vampire scheme. I like to watch Talib for the laughs. Talib is actually the reason why my account is currently blocked from streaming on Facebook. That's why I like to stream Gavin stuff, because he doesn't. I don't have to worry about it. At any time on Compound, you could be getting banned. Oh, yeah, Talib is just Talib. He's not a bad guy. I don't know why he plays Shuck and Jive. He does the old step and fetch on that network just to be the token guy. I don't know why he puts up with it. Take us out of here, Jizzy. There's some reviews on Google and Amazon about his book that it sounds like his writing is as fractured as his teleprompter reading. You know what's going to be great is if Kumia narrates his own audiobook. He's a goofy cat. He starts dipping his pipe into his tea. Yeah, we can make these. It's about a 16-hour cure time. It's warmed up here a lot. So about a 16-hour cure time. We're making teeth, Viduka. be enough left in there to do this eye. This is basically to make a second mold for the eyes. There's one for the shell, and then there's a one that has I built up a coating around it to make it a little bit thicker. And do a second mold, and then once the eye is painted, you can put it on this mandrel, pour a little bit of clear epoxy into the cavity, and then jam this down in there. And once it sets up, it'll cast a clear shell of epoxy around the eye, trap all the painting in there, all the veins. And then you can, I can put this mandrel back on my lathe and polish it. So I did this once before, but I fucked it up. Actually, I don't think I'm supposed to swear on YouTube anymore either, but I used a can of paint out in the shop that I never knew or tried it with silicone before, and I lost that gamble just to seal it, and it didn't set correctly. Basically, what it does is if you an incompatible material will inhibit the silicone, whereas the whole mold cured except for the thin layer that was touching the model didn't cure. So I pulled it out and it was wet silicone. So I put that on the list of bad materials. It's allowed, but I think they ding you and they make you put the age appropriate warning. I don't know, everybody's getting crazy online. Top far left. Yeah, that's Sven's Kumia. Sven's cartoon Kumia maquette. Oh, he just doesn't have his little hand. I had a little hand for him, but I think I threw it away or I lost it. Right now I've got a table full of chulas. I'm good. So I was making the brass number tags. I got to 13. So I decided to make one gold chula and put that number 13 brass plate on it. It's about an hour of between preparing the mold, mixing, pressure casting, and then there's time after. So then it has to sit and cure, and then there's cleanup to make sure there's no mold seams or anything like that. If there's any air bubbles, which usually it's a minimum because of the way I made the mold, but every now and then you get, so you pull it out and there's a bubble, so then I have to mix up a little bit more of the material and put it in there. All in all, it's probably 2.5 or 3 hours, probably 2.5 hours for each one. So I lowballed them this time. I just wanted to put them out there because I thought it was fun. But it's a pretty good amount of work. But it'd be pretty cool. I've got to mix up a little bit more silicone. Not much though. I better weigh this. This is one of the expensive materials I'm not wasteful with. After the teeth, it's going back to the sculpture. And then I'll be on that for a while, but I'll probably mix in some of the animatronics along with it, kind of break it up. So I tend to, what I'm going to do, here it is. You get tunnel vision working on a sculpture for a long time, and then you end up just kind of backtracking and noodling, like you'll work the same area and start wasting time. But sometimes if you just step away for a little while and you come back, things are more obvious. Oh, Kongi B, I love her. Her and Sir Wideshanks. I mean, they are goofballs. They haven't done one of their little podcasts in a month. I looked last night, and February 28th was the last one. So I guess because she's been gallivanting with Louis Gay, she hasn't been going to work. And then Wideshank is doing those the hemp clothes with the Lori Plaster or Placider or whatever her name is. I think she goes by a different name publicly. If you haven't listened to that Stone Science podcast on iTunes, I highly recommend it. It's tough at first because it can be pretty rough, but there's little moments of gold. Like Brandon and I were listening to one the other day, and Kim Congdon says she shits in the ocean. We're like, what? While she's swimming, she just lets it go, float away. We were dying laughing. Yeah, it's audio. I think you have to subscribe to their Patreon, and then you can get their videos. I can't imagine they're just sitting at like a kitchen counter with a couple of microphones and a recorder, so there's not a lot going on. They were doing a show one day. They're literally in someone's kitchen in an apartment. They were doing their show one day, and Wideshanks went to the bathroom. You could hear her pissing. God, it was funny. The show is just a mess. The microphones are always wrong. Someone will be in mono, or their volume will be down way too low. It's just a wreck. But they're scientists. I hope they keep doing it though, but it's been a month, so I don't know. I don't know if Kim Congdon has moved to New York or what. I guess their premise is that they're stoned when they're on, but I don't know if you can completely blame it on that. I think getting high rises to that amount of mental impairment. boy, do they think they're smart. Well, there's the horrible, there's the bad, the funny bad, which I would put the Stone Science into that category. It's bad, but it's funny. Whereas this AA show is just, it's just something else. You know, this Hardy has got to go. I even see some of the real hardcores on Twitter complaining about Artie. Well, you know, Viduk, we do that show, and every day everybody hates it. And every day we're like, oh God, when is this going to be over? But it's just like watching NASCAR, just waiting for that car crash. That never happens. But I don't think anything's going to change over there because I don't know. So those people get on Twitter and they talk about how unbelievable, hilarious In Hot Water is. I'm like, you people are sick. I got a little bit of a bleeder going on over here. You know, the Chip show. First couple, I was like, this is all right. Norton's funnier when he's Chip. But boy, is that getting to be the same old thing now. So I think people are trying to do too much content. And I understand it. I mean, it would be hard to do a show every single day or 4 days, talk for 2 hours and come up with material. It'd be very difficult. I think at some point you come to that conclusion yourself and say, well, I'm not doing it either. Maybe you shouldn't. And nobody works on Friday. Good opportunity for someone to do something. Seems like all of the networks are out. Even like Alex Jones is out on Fridays. That fills in. I watch the David Knight guy in the morning with coffee. I go through so much content. It's crazy. Hours and hours of podcasts, and I canceled Sirius finally. I just couldn't. Even the channel, I originally got it way back for Stern. That show got so bad And I was like, okay, well, there's all these music channels. Like, what was it? Heart Attack was on, which was great. It was just stuff all day long, stuff that you didn't hear that often. And then they switched it over to Liquid Metal. And then it was the same 10 songs every hour, just like every top 40 radio station. I'm not much into New Norton, new socially conscious Norton. Intellectual Jimmy, I don't care for. It's fun to listen to every now and then. That that appearance with Landau and Brennan was great. But that's what all the shows are missing, is just hijinks. It's all, everyone's taking themselves too seriously, especially these comedians. Stop with the developing your art. The whole concept of the revolving round table of comedians really needs to end. I would rather listen to them drag someone off the street, some stranger, and just talk to them about whatever, than hear another comedian's opinion on stuff. None of them are funny. And most of them are just mentally ill. Not the type of people I really need an opinion from or advice. Oh, I don't know if that might be a bleeder right there. I don't want to wake up tomorrow and have a puddle of silicone on the floor. Well, and the other problem too is because, it's not the same for everybody, but because I listen to so much, I've got something playing all day long that, when these guys do their tour, they'll be on one show in the morning, then they'll be on another afternoon show, then they'll be on a Compound, and then they'll go over to someone's podcast. And so you're getting the same, most of the time, garbage or bits. None of that stuff is that spontaneous. I mean, they really plan that stuff out for appearances. You get the same stories, practicing material for the stage. Now, one thing I do like is when Bill Schultz gets some of these angry women on there. That's entertaining. And you can tell that they're just all angry right from the start. That's fun times. Like that purple shirt gal from the other day. Oh, she hated the other guests. That's good times. Yeah, that's what it comes down to. Enough with find someone else. Go down to a grocery store and get the bagger and ask him if he wants to come on the show. The stories are going to be every bit as interesting. Well, my opinion on comedy is that if you spent a year working on 30 minutes, even if you're not like a super funny person, you should be able to work out a 30-minute set over a year's time and practice it and be able to do stand-up comedy. I can't imagine there's 20 guys in the BBG that are funnier than anyone on these shows. Consistently funnier. They're either more skilled as artists or they're more skilled as video editors and producers. So what's going on up there in New York? Why can't they find people? One little bleeder left. Yeah, the funny thing about Artie is that he changed a lot to be on that show. I never thought of Artie as a dick, but he's really a dick on the show. So you couple that with not being that funny to begin with. Now, maybe the drugs have kind of made him more of an ass. But I never had that opinion of him on Stern. I still didn't think he was. I mean, I'm an old school Stern guy, so I still think letting Jackie Martling go was one of the worst things they could have ever done. But that, I'm sure, a lot don't agree with me on. And that was one of the reasons why I didn't like the Stern show on Sirius. It's because as soon as they were uncensored, they stopped being clever. And I don't need to hear, I don't care if stuff is uncensored, as long as it's funny. Just because you can now say anything you want. I mean, swearing's not funny. I hear people swear all the time. What's funny? Some of that too with Artie, I think, is damage. He's damaged by what he's done to himself. From who knows from one day to the next if he even remembers the references he's making or the jokes he's telling. He may not. The guy had done so much dope that one of his nostrils is sealed to his face. right. I never even realized it. Somebody had posted a picture recently up very close after that haircut, and his right nostril is gone. It's like they just rebuilt the skin straight to his cheek. I don't know. There's a name for that crease, whatever it's called. But oh, it's bizarre. I never noticed it before. He only has one nostril. Put this up on the shelf. Now, even now, what's crazy, if you go back and you listen to older O&A, you hear really the same kind of stuff going on. It just wasn't as noticeable with them all in a group. But Norton was doing the same stuff. The self-deprecating, tranny stuff nonstop. Now I think the Chip character is just a vehicle for him to tell the world that he's gay. And I don't know what he's worried about. That's weird. When I get close to that camera, it must be the focus. Strange. Not even touching it. So this says this is a catalyst, silicone catalyst, and I have a feeling it's probably tin cure. But on the side of the bottle it says not for human injection. Very strange. I guess someone's done it. Kind of like when you see on a frozen pizza where it says do not eat frozen pizza. Do not eat this pizza frozen. So you always know somebody did it. Oh, now we need eyeballs. And I really slummed it on this one just as a test. And I'm not sure why Norton didn't, why he reacted that way with Louis C.K. I still think that all of those guys are sitting on a lot of secrets for each other. They probably got up to a lot of no good. Like the old thing Patrice used to say about Norton, he's whatever container you pour him into. That's about right. He's just completely boneless. Yeah, so I left these all the way through. So we can backlight them. Once they're epoxied, then it'll just glow through the pupil. I've never heard anything definitive, but I don't know what he pled down to. If he ended up taking a plea for a misdemeanor, or if it was a felony plea. So if it was a felony plea, he would have lost his firearms privileges. Unless that was part of the bargain. But I've never heard anything on that. I do think I think he's lost them. I don't know if he got them back yet, but he did lose them. All right, hold tight here. I'm going to put this camera on this little tripod. Oh, it's going to get a little goofy. And that may be the case. I just don't know. Need to do some housekeeping on this desk. That's YouTube, I think, doing that with the camera. Let me see what's going on with this. There's something on my desk. I think that's... Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Looking to see if I've got something running here that's... Let's see. Well, there is like a lot of stuff plugged in. Might be my soldering iron. Now it's doing it again. I'm going to stop this and restart it and see if it's YouTube. Because it has been running for a while now. No, it's not wireless. It just started to do this when I moved the camera. I'm going to stop the stream and restart it.